Hey everyone, me again. Hang on. Better. That's better. Hi. Yeah, doing another one of these kind of vids, politics-ish videos. You guys seem to enjoy the last one, so I felt compelled to do another. And by the time the other one got uploaded, like it was basically outdated almost, because Suella's gone. Way. But well, we now have David Cameron, which actually is very, very poignant because it's going to kind of go on to what kind of my thought pattern for this video is. And that is, like, I feel like we're going back to the early 2000s as far as, like, politics go. Like, I feel like the Brexit experiment of, like, that being the thing that defines the two politics sides hasn't quite worked because at the moment Labour is, like, so central that you can't really argue Brexit because they're just like, well, we'll do whatever the people want, and if the people want Brexit, well, I guess we'll give them Brexit for now. Like, so the right can't really fight on that. So now they've gone like, well, what can we do? What can we do? Well, I know. We'll bring back David Cameron, and we'll do another austerity, and we'll do rich people versus poor people. That works. Just yeah. It doesn't really work when you've already screwed the country over first, though. So one thing I'm quite happy about, is hopefully we're not going to have the Conservatives win at the next election. Sadly, it looks like we're going to have a very centralist Labour that's going to probably make up a lot of excuses to do not a lot so that the richest in society don't get peeved off with them. Or maybe, like, once they're in, they will decide whether that their base actually, like, we don't actually know. But Starmer's not giving us a lot of hope, and I was so close the other day to being like, sod your Labour, like, I'm done. I had to calm down and go, no, this one election, you just have to hold your nose for this one election because the Tories can't be given another 5 years. They just can't. So, and I'll elaborate, like, what I mean by that is basically the way that they were in the House of Parliament, they were planning on doing a vote on an amendment, I believe it was, to have a discussion about talking about ceasefire. Yeah, literally, that's what it is. They were having a vote on whether or not to have a discussion on a ceasefire. So it was about voting on on opening up a discussion, a talk to happen, a debate in the House of Parliament. But Starmer, for some reason, decided to decide this was what he was going to fight on, and told his MPs get in line or leave. And so we basically saw a bunch of Labour MPs step down or have to be sent away because they wanted to open a discussion on this. It seems so weird why Starmer decided to have this be this hardline stance, unless it was leftist conspiracy here, but maybe this was like his final ditch to get rid of like the left of the party. Like he knew there were still remnants left, so he's like, right, we'll make this hardline stance that we know the left will be compelled to fight on, and so now we can expel them and make it look totally legit. Maybe like that's just literally like conspiracy brain just thought came to me as we're having this discussion. I really hope that's not the case, and I hope a lot of this, like, getting rid of the left is mostly just to convince the public that Labour is a centralist government, and therefore anyone can trust them, because that's what you do when you're in the centre, is you do this whole, like, yes, we are for everyone, and we will have a stable status quo that will go on, and so forth. Because you have chaos, like we have for the last 14 years, being told that we're going to have a calmer period, it sounds like the safe option. Hopefully it's just that, and it's not that Labour has lost the idea of trying to be a really progressive party, which maybe it's not. Maybe when we lost Corbyn, maybe that was it. Maybe we did just kind of lose Labour as a party, and therefore maybe we have to create a new one. But That's for after the election, though. And I know that hurts. And I will say that if you are a lefty who genuinely feels in your bones that you cannot vote for this guy, then don't. I probably will, but it's more because I know my area is almost always Ashfield Independent wins. So it's like I just feel compelled. Like, I know I need to feel I'm pushing Labour the extra little bit forward. Maybe I know it almost feels inferior because not everyone's vote counts, which is why the whole like you have these movements like the Labour Social Group are doing, where they're having a website where you can put your postcode in and you'll find where your vote will best be an anti-Tory vote, which is very good. I think it's very good. They are very pro-Starmer. So if you're not... So if you're thinking of checking them out, just a fair warning is they are very pro-Starmer, getting Starmer in power. So if you're someone who looks at what Starmer's done recently and gone, maybe it's not for you. But at the same time, we are all left, and we should all remember that we are all left. And I do believe Starmer, I think to some degree, is left. Because it is kind of an argument of like, why would Starmer so hardline stand against the party that for a while was actually doing well? Like if he wanted actual power and was right wing, like it would make more sense for him to step in the position of being a really sensible leader for the Tories rather than it would Labour, because of where Labour was at the point. They were on such a back footing. We were not expecting to win this early. We were not expecting to get this general election like in the bag this much. Like at times I talk about being on Labour, but as far as I'm concerned at the moment, it's between Labour and the Tories. Like I don't even think Lib Dems have the ability to dethrone the Tories at this point. So it is a battle between the two for this election only. But what I was saying is that when we lost the last election in 2019, we generally thought we were done for 5-10 years almost. Like, but it's because the Tories... Sorry, that was a real big pop. But because the Tories couldn't help themselves, their entitlement meant that they felt they were above everything. That when the world was finally tested to be like, how legit can people be about understanding how society functions, the Tories thought themselves above it, and so they were like, no, we're still gonna party. We're still gonna make sure our friends are making loads of money at a time when the country needed them to make decisive choices where the money would effectively go. So when all was said and done, we paid out efficiently on contracts, not too much that the country would be so broken that the people would have to pay so much back. That should have been part of the idea of the coronavirus era. Is the government in power should have been more thinking like, where is the best way we can spend money that's not going to cost the person in the future from raising taxes? But as we've learned, that the de facto kind of like idea of the Tories, at least the modern Tories from like your Cameron further to now, is how much can we take from the British purse? Like, you just have to look at it anywhere. I haven't got the proper setup here. I for the next video, I am gonna have a setup so I can screen share like websites and stuff. But you just do a little bit of research. Just go on the government website, look at the figures, listen to various Guardian articles, listen to the BBC. Like, as long as you listen to abroad, like it. If you're gonna listen to LBC, that to me I think is a fairly good centrally kind of thing. If you just want to sit in the centre of politics, you don't really want to take a side left or right. LBC seems to have a good mix, especially with the O'Brien. He's very good for centre left, and you've also got Ian. I can never remember his name, but it's an Ian dude, and he's centre right-ish. So that's a decent one and has good like in between. If you are essentially, obviously you can go further left, and you've got, obviously I listen to Phil from a different bias, and you've got Rubian. I butcher his name every time, but he's a friend of Phil, and he does Sunday Roast with Alex again, I can't remember his name, but they're a good couple of YouTube channels. And then you can go even further left and you get, Varo Media and stuff. And you can go the other way and you got your GBBs. Sorry if it's demeaning, but it's kind of funny because you do kind of watch some of their segments and go, jeez, who are really watching these kind of moments? Like, the amount of times that they're unprofessional, but they do the whole Fox Newsy thing of like, we're not a news channel. But then everything they do is to try and convince you on some level that they are a news channel, which is very Fox Newsy. And obviously you could go further right, which I don't really go any further right than that when I watch anything. For my insanity sometimes. I even step away from some of the more lefty really far left ones when it's like, I just need to have a calm moment. I want to still keep up to date with current politics, but kind of step away from the kind of views that really make you think and wonder where people kind of get their mindsets from at times. Politics is awful, and I don't recommend anyone ever. I do, because everyone needs to be into politics, but I wish no one had to be into politics. It is deliberately designed in the way where if you get involved in it for too long, you do generally feel like you just want to... You know what I mean? Can't really say it for YouTube, but you know what I mean? So yeah, but I guess that's kind of what this I'm trying to make this evolve this channel to being, is I kind of want to be like a filter almost. Obviously I need to put my game up. At the moment I'm literally just here rambling a bit and talking about vague statements about politics, but I'm trying to see if I can get a feel for it, and if you guys actually do want to feel for it, please let me know in the comments, by hitting like on the video and whatever. Like, engage with these videos, and if I can see an engagement, I know that I am beginning, like, at least from like the last video, it was a bigger uptick than what I usually see. Like, I've noticed the downwards trend of the channel. It's fine. This is just a hobby kind of thing at the moment anyway. But I did notice like a bunch of people watched the last one, so cool. So yeah, if you do generally want to watch more of these videos, and want me to kind of continue down this path, which I'm hoping to anyway. I'm probably going to try and make them anyway, because it's a good outlet for my mental health. So, yeah. Anyway, I wasn't ending there. I was just trying to go like sidetrack. Like, I'm trying to make I am going to make this better. And what I mean by filter is, obviously, if you've been with the channel for a while, you know this is a very geeky, comic booky, superhero, theory channel. And I want to incorporate that into explaining and giving people ideas on what's going on politically around Britain. I'm probably not going to do global at the moment, because Britain is so broken itself that you feel that in itself is a journey to go on to keep up with British politics, because there's so much chaos all the time. The global stuff, I guess we could talk at times, but at the moment, while it's still going on, it sounds like it probably will for a while. The Palestine, Israel stuff, which, geez, I almost feel like I don't want to. I feel like British politics is a lot easier than that geopolitical stuff going on. I'll give you my 5 cents on it, which is that the longer this is going on, the more it's looking very much like, at the very least, Israel doesn't mind leveling Gaza if it means that this this threat that is Hamas, that did an awful thing on October the 7th. I do believe that date is correct. I'm so sorry if it's not. I'm pretty sure that's right though. That event was awful. It was beyond, like, I can't even think of the right kind of words to explain how bad of an event that was. And for, call them terrorists, call them freedom fighters, whatever your political stance is on that matter, there becomes a point where you can't condone an action at all, regardless of how radicalized you are for a belief. And that amount of atrociousness that happened on that day, you can't condone them anymore. And if Hamas was to be broken down and stopped, probably for the best after that event. I'm not saying that the people that are in Hamas that have maybe an idea that they actually want to make a change, and it's not about brutal annihilation, but it's actually political change, then you could move over to a new party and dissipate Hamas. And the people who did the stuff, they need to be punished and arrested because, geez. But at the same time, we do need to have a serious discussion about the way Israel is going about what it's going about. Like, the last number I heard, there was like 1,000 Hamas operatives. That was the number I heard. Which, a very large amount. Cool. And I heard there's like 4,000 members. These are the numbers I've heard. So, obviously, I could be way off. If you're someone who knows a lot more in depth than me, please, I'll happily sit down with a discussion about it. But if those numbers are anywhere near right, then comparing them to the amount of overall deaths going on that the Gaza administration, who have been deemed as being correct and giving fairly accurate information almost every time, and they've given I think even IDs for the identifications of each victim, then if it's close to 11, then 1,000 Hamas, and say you adding those 1,000 in, that would still be 10,000 civilians. That to me, that's insane. And I know I'm coming from a country where my country did some, and I will say it, I'm not a politician, so I will say it, because I am not proud of the actions of my country, is the way my government goes about war at times is atrocious and definitely should be called out. I don't care what kind of villain you're fighting, the way that people go about war is fucked. Gonna be honest. So I am happy to say the way that Israel's going about this is fucked, if I'm gonna be honest. It's to bombard areas that you know are going to have civilians because human shields are being made, knowing that the only way you can attack this terrorist group with this action is to also kill civilians, and not instead decide some other way. Like, isn't this a thing called like an Iron Dome that Israel has that is like an anti-rocket safety thing? I'm not 100% sure. Like, hang on, you guys can see my face. Iron Dome, Israel. All right, let's go back on here. Right, let me add an extra window capture. Yes. Right, what you not let me do? Not that one then. That one. Yeah, that's the right one. No, that one. Oh God, I've lost you all. There we go. I'm back. I think I'm back. What are we doing? Okay, screw this. Right. Go ahead. Iron Dome Wikipedia. Iron Dome is an Israel mobile all-weather air defense system developed by Rockwater Defense System. A system designed to destroy short-range rockets and artillery shell fired from distance. Okay, so yeah, as I was Get rid of this freaking window. Pee off. Thank you. I need to get this set up better. That was atrocious and amateur, and sorry about that. So, as we saw there, very quick check, and as I say, like, obviously this is my degree of research. If you guys want me to hard line, obviously, if you guys, this is something I probably will get better at, obviously. And the more time I have, obviously, I'm saying obviously so often, that's awful. Being a father now, I have limited time, so I will get better at this in my pace, and you'll see the videos. Hopefully I'm going to try and push myself to do more. It takes a lot for me to do these kind of content. Back in the day when I first started making these videos, like, I loved it to bits, but I kind of lost a drive for it and never really got it back. And then stuff over the last couple of years, globally, locally, family based, like, the mental capacity to do much at times is crazy. But that's not about this. This is about, we're talking about Israel, and then we're going to move on from it. And that is, yeah, so they've got like a defense system, and I would be intrigued to know how much, like, how often has Hamas, like, I know this attack happened, but how often has Hamas managed before that attack to do what they did? Basically trying to understand, like, how, like, I get that event happened and we were going to prevent that event from ever taking place, and the military siege around Gaza could definitely be a way that you could prevent that from happening. And also maybe not saying this is their fault, obviously, but not have events so close to a border where you're having conflict with that said group. Like, there's a few things that just seemed a bit, in hindsight, things like, yeah, I know as soon as I say any, if I actually commit to saying anything, that's why I'm not committing to say certain things, that potentially someone could grab me for saying certain things, and I don't want to, and because it's a very complex situation, and I'm giving my 2 cents, unresearched, just listening to people have their views and opinions and give me their takes online. So no legitimate source can come from me, obviously, and my opinions are my opinions and should not reflect or affect anyone else's, at least at this current time when I am saying that my opinion is unresearched and very off the cuff kind of thought on this. So yes, I've had some long-term discussion with friends and family, but I have very loose research, and again, do not take what I say as gospel, as anything that should be affecting your personal views yourself. Please don't do that. This is literally to open discussions, and then we can start off, and I can give you my full takes, you give me your full takes, we can have discussions and debate and stuff. Like, that would be the point in these kind of videos. So, as far as I'm concerned with Israel, is I am on the side of a ceasefire. I know that most people have said Hamas probably wouldn't be, like, okay with that, but I feel at this point the ceasefire, it's not about preventing Israel and Hamas from having a war with each other. It's about making sure the civilians are not caught up. Like, by all means, Israel should have like, keep their military control on the outskirts for now, like, while Hamas is not giving itself up. Have soldiers on the ground. Like, if we're, this is going to be my final take, it's probably going to annoy people on this whole thing, but this is personally what I say is, if we're okay with civilian casualties being, let's go really, really reasonable here and say that we're okay with 5,000, 6,000 civilians, right? Maybe say, but because we weren't constantly told, we were told when they were hitting, like, they hit some and then it went straight up to 10,000, right? So let's say we're okay with 6,000 civilian deaths. would that mean that we would be okay with having Israeli soldiers on the ground in Gaza fighting a war that way, so bombs don't drop discriminately, so they can be held to account if too many civilians die, because it's soldiers firing the guns and not somebody designating an area and then dropping a bunch of bombs in that area through an artillery strike? Then are we okay with us losing those soldiers then, as well as, like, instead of maybe those civilian casualties? Like, everyone keeps saying, and no, everyone keeps denying this isn't about one side annihilating the other. Okay, cool, fair. This is the take then, is that everyone sees everyone's lives as equal, and this is a retaliated thing that's taking place. Okay. So we're now at 10,000 people that have died. Say that, let's be generous and say 2,000 of them are Hamas. So that's 8,000 civilians that have died. And the number we've thrown out is 4,000 children. We're being generous with numbers. I say generous here with numbers. We're making the numbers at a size where it's like, okay, maybe they've been inflated slightly. So say 2,000 children. We've lost 8,000 civilians. 2,000 of them are children. Some of that will even be babies. Like, I'm not okay with that. I would be a lot more okay if we had soldiers going in and we were losing maybe a few hundred soldiers through armed conflict, knowing that the casualties of Hamas are also going up from that, because this is the agitation taking place. I don't agree that any life should be lost personally, but this is talking in the way of the war going on and all this conflict, and this is the situation that we're in. So if we were losing maybe like 200 soldiers every so many weeks instead of 2,000 civilians every so many weeks, surely that would be a much more okay situation. Because I've heard that argument be like, oh, we could, like, obviously we had to send the artillery in, destroy the infrastructure, so we're going to send the soldiers in afterwards, which I don't personally buy, especially with the latest video that showed the headquarters of Hamas, and it was just some get up and go bags that looked like, yeah, the hospital was probably being used by Hamas. Yeah, okay, being used by Hamas. But yeah, we have already well established at the beginning of the conflict that Hamas is embedded in this entire area. But the whole point is you don't attack hospital places unless there's actual legit reasons for doing so. And having like a few hundred soldiers in a hospital when you've got maybe several thousand civilians in said hospital, I think that I'm not good with military like statistics and law and the way they Geneva Conventions and war crimes and stuff to get decided, like, but I think like that would be like, huh? But that's kind of like what the hospital's looking like. Is more a few hundred that have kind of bunkered down there. Maybe they've, because the situation been taken forth, they've been pushed back, so they've taken up siege in a hospital. But that's taking up a siege in a hospital that has loads of civilians there and saying this hospital is secretly a Hamas headquarters are two very distinctly different things. And yes, by all means, attacking it, thinking that it's headquarters, realizing the casualty and stuff, and then afterwards going, we were wrong. We thought this was a headquarters. This turned out to be a location where Hamas was rallying to. We're wrong. We've taken out Hamas soldiers, but we were wrong about that. Instead of doubling down and saying that the information does show what it shows, even though we're looking at it and being like, doesn't really show. It's like, okay, I'm going to go off the subject now because see, I have done some stuff on it, but yeah. Anyway, British politics. I said, felt like going back to the 2000s. Okay, getting away from geopolitics, let's talk local politics. So, early 2000s, I remember growing up, being someone whose mother had to deal with the fact that their dad, her husband, had left them in debt, and me and my brothers, brother at the time, but then became second brother, a few years later, we were left like not being able to do anything. And obviously my mum had to be on benefits because she needed help. She was looking after 2 kids, getting work where she could, and she needed help. And I remember being on TV, being on things that were on TV all the time, talking about how people who are on benefits and they're going against the system and stuff, and it's not right that taxpayers put money into the system, and the government has to fork out paying benefits to all these people that don't want to work. And so I kind of grew up with this mentality of like, no, you got to work. Like, working is the way that you pay back society. Obviously, I've grown up, become a lefty, and realised that that all sounds cool in practice. And I would admit, I've committed to the work. I've injured myself and having to change the type of job I have in order to compensate for it, because I felt that mentality. I've pushed myself to the point where it's detrimental for me to stay where I am. So I do eventually need to move on from there. And so I do believe that mentality, like being in work, can be really good for you. But I also believe that if you're going to be in work, if you're going to pay the system back, the society, the government, whoever the frick you want to call it, back, by paying your taxes, by having a job so you can pay your taxes, is knowing that the society cares for you and knowing that society is going to look after you. And that the resources you need in order to go about your life, society is providing for, as in public transport, and just being able to go to your local high streets and stuff and know that they are being looked after, knowing your town centres are being looked after. Things that the government's meant to be doing. When they're not doing any of that, and they are still demonising people who are on benefits, I get a problem. I've got a problem now, because personally, if someone wants to not work, I personally think that, okay, fair, especially in the state the society is in and the way that it treats us as individuals. Like, it's personally pretty fair at the moment. Society does not give a rat's ass about any single person. And so, whatever. But obviously for a lot of people, it's, no, you really should work. You shouldn't, like, the system shouldn't have to pay for you to stay at home while I'm off doing work. Which, yeah, okay, if society was fair and you working actually did get counted by someone not being at work, okay, that would be fair enough. But it's not. We don't live in a system that's fair and equal, and everyone should live by a certain subset of rules, and everyone has a certain etiquette in society, because we don't. We may do, like you, me, working class people, we might have the similar kind of etiquette where we think, like, yeah, we should get up, you should work, pull yourself a bit, and get on with life. I hate it. But that's a fair thing. It's fair. It's how a lot of people get on with life. But when your society is so broken that the people at the top who are meant to make decisions, where yes, you're paying your taxes, cool, we've got all your money, now we're going to distribute it to who needs it. When they distribute it to people who don't need it, when they distribute during a time of crisis, money instead of to services that actually need that money, to services that don't provide the services we need during a crisis, like the dodgy contracts with PPE. And then when you find out that not only are we just not doing the research and just going, oh yes, there's a private person over there, let's take that. Oh, they turned out to be what did they call them? It's like Del Boy kind of people. Oh damn, we are shocked. We got so. No, it turns out it's their friends that are these who are starting up these companies and having these dodgy contracts. At that point, I don't want you, as a government official, to try and demonise people who are just at home, struggling mentally with the crisis of society being so freaking broken like it is. And yes, this is also including people who protest for global warming things and stuff like that. Like, there are some of us out there that generally cannot focus on other things in the world when we know that our world is going to die at some point very soon, in the next several, like, in about 100 to 200 something years, I'm pretty sure most of the Earth is not going to be inhabitable if we carry on the course we're going. So, if that's the case, I think it's okay for some people to decide to focus their lives on trying to make the government as uncomfortable as possible so they don't do stupid shite like starting up oil contracts when we're trying to go green and making it difficult for electric car companies to start up here because they're radicalised to a concept of Brexit that is unnecessarily stupid. Oh, I shouted there. So when all this stuff happens, and then I see the government being like, oh yes, we need to make sure people are working again. We need to get them off their asses and back into work. When you do that, just after finding out your bunch of your colleagues are going out drinking, and that the leader thought it was okay to not only lie about the fact that he noticed people were drinking, and attended, even for minor time, attended said functions, but willing to lie, and then and then try and sound like the victim when called out for lying. Our system is broke. And it's not broken because we've got people who cannot function in society because of how stupidly designed it is, that certain people with certain mindsets, with certain being on certain degrees of the spectrum where the society's not built and functioned for them, that they can actually focus and concentrate and actually just get on with life, because the way their brain is designed, it gets short-circuited by the stupid formality that society has. So people like that have to kind of be on, like, they kind of have to go to benefits and stuff, or be creative in other ways, because just having a job and the way that most jobs are just seem just bleh to some people. And as you can tell, I myself am frustrated. And so it hurts me to feel I'm back to my childhood era of politics, where mothers who are struggling, and not just mothers, but nurses will be struggling, doctors, teachers will be struggling. And so people who really in the past, when the society actually gave a shit enough to make sure you had enough to get by, when even those people are having to be on benefits, and then you're going to attack benefits. Because we know for a while, it's not going to be designed in a way where it's the obvious offenders who are just at home thinking, ha ha ha, this is free money from the government, I can use to smoke drugs all day and not do anything. Obviously, there is probably like a 1-2% of these in society. Fair, okay? Kind of vibe with the concept of it, but obviously society's not at that point yet, and so personally I feel selfish whenever that happens, but you shouldn't feel selfish if you do. I may feel like I walk a tightrope, but I love every human being, and I don't want people to be annoyed unless you're a douche and think that you're better than society, that you're better than everyone else in society, in which case, off. So yes, there might be a 1-2% of people on benefits that are like that. Okay. After completely annihilating society, the economy, and deciding now is the time you're going to be like grown-ups, and maybe we shouldn't allow people who are doing things like that to get away with things because we're Tories and we're hardcore. Okay, if you want to go after that 1-2%, it's not going to make really much of a difference. But we know you're not just going to go after that 1-2%. You're going to go after the mother who's got a part-time job because she's got 3 kids and she's single and she can't afford to she can't afford to childcare, so she only gets a part-time job. She can be at home for her kids for the rest of the time, and she can only get friends or family to look after the kids for a short amount of time while she's at work. So she needs benefits to top up her wages so she can afford her rent that's now been skyrocketed by private landlords that this government actually protects, while at the same time energy bills keep going up, which this government is allowing to happen. So you're now going to tell her that she needs to work more because we're not giving her any money. What? I thought Britain was meant to be a compassionate place. I thought the whole point of Brexit was because we've been too compassionate. That we've let too many people in, and therefore the British people are suffering, and we need to ease it. So we did Brexit, and then a bunch of people from other countries decided not to work here because it was inconvenience, or that we cut off the safe routes. And so anyone that's trying to get here, they get held up because they're called illegal immigrants because there's no other route they can get here for. And then, like, and we still try and claim we're passionate when we're telling a single mum, no, you should work more because I'm not paying for your kids to eat. Once you start laying your cards out like this, once you start really adding human compassion to it, which we do, we need to. I don't give a rat's ass if politics is meant to be like cold collectives, because it does not work. The people at the top are not cold collective robots that are only doing for the betterment of society. Not for one freaking second are they doing that. They're doing it for personal gain, personal glory, and money. And sometimes they'll even bend and break the rules to make sure they gain extra money as well. And so if that's the case, I say we need to have more compassion in politics. Because I think through compassion, we make genuine choices that actually can affect and make the world better. Look, during COVID, I'm not talking about the government now, I'm talking about the people. I'm talking about the way that people around the world, we compassionately looked out for people. I was working, I work for a supermarket, and therefore I was working all the way through COVID. But I remember the joyfulness of coming on the news each day being like, we clap for the nurses. I know it turned out that it meant nothing because now some people are annoyed that nurses will need pay rises. What the hell? They were doing amazing during it. But then you've got people who were going out safely and making sure that people were eating. They were people were trying to have community based just event things to make sure that everyone's taken care of and everyone's being kept in contact even though they're being locked away. And then when the government allowed a little bit more freedom, people were actually they were coming together. The world was getting better. I thought during COVID this could be a pinnacle moment. People could actually learn what it meant to be compassionate and human, and we could actually make a difference. No. Because still at the top, regardless of where you look now, at least ever since COVID and Starmer's being into power, there isn't a single person that you genuinely feel, well, I would say probably now, since the Israel thing, definitely, I don't think there's a single person you could feel has a degree of compassion that you can trust they're actually looking out for the betterment of the people. Yeah, Starmer might be left-wing, most of Labour might be left-wing, but it feels more like the focus is to win the election. Because, going to be honest, when you've got, 800,000, 300,000, it was a really large number of people marching in London for a ceasefire. I don't think it was political ingenuity that was like, no, we have to absolutely not have a discussion on whether or not to have a ceasefire, and I will sack anyone that does. That seems... What? That's not compassion. The compassionate thing would be to allow a discussion to take place. Labour didn't have to stand by it. Starmer could just be like, no, as a Labour Party, we completely are on side with Israel and the way they wish to defend themselves. There could just be parts of Parliament. It's like, yeah, we want to have a ceasefire. Because at the end of the day, discussion might have gone through, and there might have been enough people that could be whipped in to be like, yeah, we're not calling for we're not saying that we're not going to talk to Israel about a ceasefire because the numbers aren't there for it. But we didn't even get to have a discussion on whether or not a vote would go forward. And to me, that means there's a complete lack of compassion. And that personally is why I almost walked away from voting for Labour at this election. Because to me, it just fundamentally seemed wrong to do. And I know there's discussion that it wouldn't matter anyway. Israel wouldn't listen to us. Starmer would just be taking a stance that the right could then just pick away at him for. Okay, but what would that matter? It didn't look like it was really a left or a right-wing opinion. It's not like the Conservatives are hardline being like, yes, we are Israel, we are on the side of Israel 100%, and Israel has a right to just completely level Gaza. They're not even doing that. No one sensible currently in politics, as far as Britain is concerned, is saying that Israel is 100% correct on every single thing they're doing. So it seemed weird to just outright stop a discussion on whether or not a ceasefire, because you could have found out the consensus might even be 50-50, and therefore there could have been a thought of, well, if it's 50-50 and the country's not 100% aligned with either side, there's no real point in talking to Israel. But at least then we would feel like, okay, At least there was the debate on it. But there wasn't even that. Because Starmer was making sure it didn't happen. And that's a lack of compassion in politics. Because we don't expect compassion from the Tories. We just look at their policies over the last 14 years. No way are the Tories going to be compassionate. And maybe that's just David Cameron-esque era of politics. Okay, but you've had Margaret Thatcher as well. And come on. Iron Lady herself, was she really compassionate? I wouldn't think so. So we don't expect it from the Tories. Because that's kind of the point. It's not about being humanitarianly nice to your common man. It's about knowing that each individual has a right to their freedoms and rights and the chance to make something of themselves. Okay. That doesn't align with where I am as a human, to be honest. No. So I would never vote Tory. But it's really hard to vote Labour when Labour has a semi-similar stance of we stand for the people and we think that everyone should do well in life and that people shouldn't scam and corrupt. But we will do what we can when given power. Because we don't want to scare, we want to seem like a sensible government. Okay? Cool. I guess I'll vote for you. So where do you stand on this geopolitical issue on whether or not a ceasefire should happen? Because the amount of civilian deaths is getting to a number where it's making many people around the world really uncomfortable, and it does not look like this is just defensive retaliation for a single event. Well, I don't think that we should really have a discussion on that. I think the British people should just stay out of it. Keep your hands clean. Don't want to shake the boat. We don't want to change the status quo. Because that's literally what Starmer's position is, status quo. I'm guessing living standards might improve a bit, but status quo is everyone should work. Everyone should pay a level of wage where the government tells you this is the correct one. The government will do some stuff that will make your standard of living better. I might be wrong. It might be amazing. But I'm not convinced, especially after the Israel this debate being shut down. Just makes me uncomfortable. But I follow people like Phil from a different bias, and Phil doesn't seem deterred by this at the moment. So maybe I'm just being too lefty when it comes to a matter of straight up just shush and just it has to happen. I hope not. I didn't want to go back to the Israel-Palestine stuff, but it's something that's really weighing me down, and I just need to talk about it. It seems insane that everyone keeps talking about it. It's really complicated because there's been a war, there's been constant conflict between the two sides ever since the Israeli state was formed. And all of the countries have basically been really against the concept of it. But I would assume that the reason Israel hasn't fallen is because Israel has had a lot of Western backing, and probably a lot of the Arab states that are around it, they know not to try and annihilate Israel, because Israel, let's be honest, Israel has Big Daddy America covering its back. Even now, where most of the world is going, shouldn't we have a discussion about this? America's like, nah. It's fine. And I guess that might be why most of the West is not being very vocal about what a lot of their civilian population are talking about at the moment. So, firsthand, doesn't feel right. This war going on, it feel like all I'm hearing a lot of at the moment is the fact that Israel's like, look, if we don't eradicate Hamas, Hamas will come and eradicate us. And I'm like, but not everyone in Gaza is Hamas. And they're like, yeah, we know that. It's like, okay, so let's have a discussion about senseless bombing, potentially radicalizing more people there. Yeah, but a lot. This is something I heard today. I can't remember what his name is. Let's have a look. I was watching an LBC video today. No, that's inheritance tax. We don't want that one. Let's go to my service, guys. An Israeli spokesman. What's his name? You should be able to tell me his name. Elizon Levy. I probably butchered the hell out of that name. Levy. And what was he say? Like, he made a statement that really kind of made me think, that sits uncomfortably with me. And I want to share it. And that is, he was asked about, don't you think the way that you're going about this is going to radicalize more people? And he said a poll came out saying that a large, I think it's like 60 or 70 something % already support Hamas. And to me, when accompanied by statements by the same person saying that we will continue doing what we're doing until we've eradicated Hamas, to also follow on with most of the civilian population still back Hamas, it doesn't take a lot for the cogs to turn on what the excuses might start to come to be if even America turns around to Israel and goes, look mate, these civilian numbers are getting a bit nuts now. I personally wouldn't be very surprised if the statement then becomes, well, after enough research, we've realised that every place we've hit has some sort of indicator that Hamas is here. And from the intel we've got, Hamas is everywhere. And most of the people are probably working for Hamas at this point. I wouldn't even be surprised if it becomes a story that goes out where Israeli soldiers are attacked, and they release a video or something, and it looks like civilians. And it turns out that a lot of civilians are. At this point, I hope to God I am conspiracy brain thinking it, and it's not going to happen. But as I say, when you say we're going to eradicate Hamas no matter what, while being asked about civilian casualties, and you also follow up with a large percentage of the civilian population support Hamas, I don't think it takes a lot to think where that line of thought goes as far as legitimizing yourself in the future. Now, I hope, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just like the last video I did, that I upload this. I'm going to make sure I upload it immediately, because the last one I did upload a bit late. Maybe I upload this, and then by the time people start actually watching this video in a couple of days, whatever, maybe something magical has happened. Maybe Hamas laid down their arms and said, look, the senseless murder of civilians, we can't have it on our hands. We stand down. Like, maybe that happens, and then nothing comes about. But as I say, when that Israeli spokesperson said that, it just, I felt like a spidey sense just go, nah. When you accompany all of that together, especially with that being like one of the final statements in the interview as well on LBC. I'll tell you, in case you want to go look for it, guys, it's the Louis Goodall asked Israeli spokesperson for compelling evidence on Hamas hospital activity. That was released at the time of this video today, about 6 hours ago. And it's what, 19th today? Yeah, 19th of the 11th. So maybe this video becomes really dated in a couple of days. Because, thank the creator. Like, if that's right, there is a divine essence in the universe that actually doesn't want us to annihilate ourselves. Because that's another thing that I worry about. I really do worry. Because if America is willing to stand by Israel regardless, where could this go? Do we just stand by while Gaza is just eradicated off the map And then what does the West Bank go after if that happened? Like, I at the moment there's no constraint. It doesn't look like constraint anyway. And so my mind just wanders whenever this stuff happens. I really hope not. But thank you for listening, guys. Like I say, these videos do help me. And the fact there are people out there that listen to them, it kind of gives me a nice buzzy feeling as well. So anyway, I'm going to end this one here. It's been a long rant. And as I say, if you want to listen to more, leave a comment. Please leave a like. And if you haven't already subscribed to Mr. Theorist, please do. There are some fun videos out there. And there will be one to do with this coming up soon. I need to get hold of my friend and get him to come over so we can do this video. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.